Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Please subscribe there. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Stephen Willis. This is an extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I have a special guest today, Charles Stackhouse. I'm going to say Ole Miss legend, but I might be biased, but I'm going to say Ole Miss legend. Charles Stackhouse is in the house. How are you doing, Charles?
Oh, man, I'm doing beautiful, man. A beautiful day above ground. Getting ready for some Ole Miss football. I've been counting down the days myself, so it's kind of like every day I'm seeing what they have to put out on Twitter, on their social medias, on Facebook. Getting ready to make a trip down to Oxford here soon to get used to the atmosphere before the atmosphere comes, man. It's that time of year. So how about yourself? How you feeling, Steve?
I'm pretty fired up after watching, I watched the media days and Lane Kiffin speak today, and he was able to take a whole 30-minute period and not get one question about his team. It is one of the most masterful performances of PR. He did not have to. You have a situation with the transfer portal where it's not guaranteed that Spencer Sanders or Jackson Dart or everybody is going to be there at the end of August right now, and you didn't have to get put on the spot for that question. To me, it was masterful. It absolutely was.
Man, it's we have a masterful guy at the head of Ole Miss football right now. If you look at his the way he markets, it's pretty different than you see in a college football coach. But it seems to gain publicity amongst the recruits that he's recruiting. So I think he has a pretty interesting approach, and I like it.
Yeah. Pretty fired up. Let's talk about whenever you were in school back in a while back, I'm not gonna ask you to date yourself on that one, but you went to SEC Media Days. What was that experience like for a player that's going through SEC Media Days?
Oh man, it's like lights on. It's like lights on. You have the media everywhere, questions everywhere. It's really a fun time. It's like really a get to know the people who's going to be broadcasting you, who's going to be covering you the whole, year. And it was a fun time, and some of the questions were, different questions, but it was a fun time.
A lot of people probably don't know this, and they think it's just there for the media to ask questions and have a press conference for everybody. But a whole lot of the broadcast partners that you were just talking about, all of the stuff that you see during SEC Network games, ESPN games, all of that is filmed during this walkthrough. And you basically do a car wash, you meet the media, it's like 2 or 3 or 4 hours and you're out the door. I mean, that has to be an unbelievable experience for somebody that's never done it. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like an eye opener for sure. Like, okay, this almost seems kind of professional-ish, like the professional NFL type, settings to where you have to come in and you see the lights and you see the different people that you usually see talking on TV and, all of those different things. And it's a pretty unique experience, especially as a player, because all of those things that you work so hard to do, and you finally get to where you want to be as far as a college. And then, bam, you're like spotlighted on that college through Media Day. And everybody, in the SEC pretty much knows who you are then, from that media day, because it's all filmed and broadcasted everywhere and all those things.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But let's turn our attention to this year a little bit. What are your opinions going into the 2023 football season? What are the things that you're looking for? Are you really excited about seeing year 2 in Quinshon Judkins? What's on your mind?
Well, I think it's very I would say it's important that they start off with a good start, with feeding him the ball and being able to maneuver through the different things to, like I'd say, Quinshon Judkins is a playmaker, right? So you want to get him the ball. And I think within the first 3 games, I think the first game is, if I'm not mistaken,
it's Mercer.
Yeah, Mercer. I think that would be a good game to really highlight, what and see what he's possible of, the possibilities of that offense and what they can do to, if they come, I'll tell you this, if they come out of the first 3 games, I think it's Mercer, then you have is it Georgia Tech at the third game, right?
Yeah, and then Tulane in the middle.
And Tulane in the middle. I think if they can come out of that game 3-0 with a fresh Judkins and Dart at his top, performing at his top, I think we come out of that first 3-0, and I think then we're looking at going into Alabama with some steam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that will really be detrimental to the players. Like they have, okay, we're 3-0 now. We know we can go and play ball. We have our running back, who's playing well. We have our quarterback who's playing well. And, the receivers are going to excel off of the capabilities of the running back. So I think that it's going to really be a good year for Ole Miss if they can get started, get fired up, and get going fast. I think it'll be a great year.
You kind of led the way for Deuce McAllister on a lot of his famous carries in Ole Miss history. And it's kind of funny to see whenever you're thinking about a running back of that skill set, of that magnitude that is progressing from year one to year two, what can we expect in year two after Quinshon Judkins has gone through it? What has he picked up? What has he learned in year two that we can kind of keep an eye on as like, okay, he's on today. He's doing this.
Right. I think it will be more of the pressure from the first year. You have the pressure when it's like they're calling on you, right? They're calling on you to do some things. They're calling on you to score. So it's pressure there. And I think this year it'll be more like acceptance of the role, what he has to do. So I think you'll see a more sharper, a more detailed Quinshon Judkins, because that first year, even my first year, it's tough. You don't know what to expect, right? And after that first year, you got your feet wet, everything's flowing with the team, the coaches, and now you feel more comfortable, handling the ball because you're used to the plays, and now you're used to some of the line that's there, and you guys are kind of like banging on the same sequence, even at sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But long as you hit the same sequence at times when it's necessary, you'll be very, very more adept to be a great running back in the SEC this year, especially with Judkins. I think it's important for him to really look at what he did last year and like really gain as much knowledge as he can from it and use it for this year. I think that'll be the most thing. Releasing the pressure, man. The pressure's gone. Okay, I can go out and perform now. I know what I can do. Let's just go out and do it, which I think is what most running backs see their first year of college. Is they want to see what they can do. And from there, they want to get better, right? They want to go into the off-season program, get better, stronger, faster, more knowledgeable of the plays. So, yeah, man, I think if he can stay on track and release the pressure from last year and understand that, pressure busts pipes and just, let that pressure release and take it out on the field, I think he'll – because a lot of people still doubt him. He still has a little doubt from some people. But to me, he's a stellar running back. And if he goes off of his performance last year and strengthens it for this year, he'll be great.
This week I was thinking, and all of a sudden one of the sayings that Cut said over and over again, to where he just drilled it home, and that is, you never stay the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And he said that over and over, and I was there in 2003. I'm sure he said it when you were there as well. But with me in this business, that's kind of the mantra of what I'm doing. I want my podcast to consistently get better. I'm always trying to tweak things. I'm wanting to be an early adopter. The one thing that I'm struggling with trying to be an early adopter with is NIL, because it seems like it's kind of a free-for-all at this point. And I was sitting here talking to you off air before we started. Can you imagine how much money Eli Manning would have made before he went to the New York Giants in Oxford, Mississippi in 2003?
I can't imagine. I mean, the companies, the money that flows through that place. Yeah, I can't imagine, I think it, like we said earlier, I think it would have been like, should I try to go get my master's instead of go to the NFL? or more something like that, man. But yeah, it's interesting though. It's very interesting because as a player, we used to always feel like we were like we wasn't getting what we were worth. We go out there, you hurt your shoulder, you get an injection in your shoulder. You hurt your knee, you get an injection in your knee. You hurt yourself and you're playing, and you all you get is your Pell Grant and your tuition pay, which is, don't get me wrong, huge, right? But I think now it's more of a they can attract more uh, players, and more like a lot of more small colleges can attract bigger players with their pockets now. So it's pretty it's in its trial phase, but I think that you can expect the SEC to make some changes to it. Not if not now, soon, especially the SEC, because those guys are going to get paid so much they're not going to want to go to the NFL. and and just seriously, and especially Alabama and those teams like that that's just born and bred with so much money, that they can pretty much pay a player what they want, get their sponsors to come in and pay a player what they want legally now through the NIL. And I think that it's good for the players, and at the same time, there's always a catch-22 with everything, right? You don't want to make the players become content, because they are a lot of players not used to making that kind of money, and they are getting that kind of money now, and it could, kind of damper how they play, make them more content to where, and some of them it could push. So it's like a catch-22 with everything, man. It's a good and a bad.
Yeah, and it's absolutely interesting and intriguing and all of this. I think there's a bill that's been drawn up in Congress to try and regulate it. I have no faith that Congress can do anything to regulate anything. But it's just one of those things. Now, this season, what is your prediction for this season?
I predict a strong bowl game. I predict a strong bowl game. I predict a definitely over 50 season. Hopefully, like I say, it'll depend on how we start. If we could, start and handle our business with these first teams like we're supposed to, I think it'll give the team a little steam going into the harder course, because I think you got Alabama, then right back to LSU, and that's the tough part. That's that middle good part of it, the SEC. So I think that if they do what they're supposed to do, the coaches, stay on top of their game, first 3 games, coming to Alabama, either, get a win or, really test your players in that game. I think that that will really dictate what will happen for the rest of the season.
Also, how weird does it look like to see the LSU game in September?
I was looking at the schedule the other day, and I'm like, man, I'm not used to, I'm used to Halloween, used to being close to Halloween or something of that nature, and it'll be different. But hey, man, these schedules, the way they have some of these schedules set in the SEC, it's going to be interesting to watch this year, because, like I say, we got Alabama, and then we go right back. If I'm not mistaken, it's LSU. Let me look at the schedule here real quick to make sure. But that's a tough 2-week span right there.
And then Arkansas is coming into the house.
Right.
And you've played in a game and saw how that Arkansas game can be.
Oh, man. One of the longest games I've ever played, for sure. It marks the calendar for that. But I think that's very important. And also our last game, we got to go to Starkville. That's a huge, it depends on where we are in the statistics, of trying to either, go to an elite bowl game or, whatever position we're in. That's going to be a big game, because it's an SEC game as well. So very interesting, man.
You think it's weird, like Mississippi State on their schedule, they play Southern Mississippi 5 days before Ole Miss. That's like Ole Miss scheduling Memphis before State.
Yeah, hey man, that could work for them and against them.
Yeah.
They could preserve some players, but they can also get some players that's in the height of the season get lackadaisical, because that game they feel like they can go out and do to Southern Miss what they would do to Ole Miss what they did to Southern Miss, and it ain't gonna work like that. Yeah. So who knows, man? That's an interesting aspect. I never looked at that, but that is pretty interesting. You would usually, going into, well, I don't know, man. It depends. It depends on how they play that game. I'll say that, because that could be a detrimental game for them as well. You go in and you lose the Southern Miss, you got to come in and play Ole Miss.
Yeah, the mustard buzzards, as I like to call them, are going to come into that game sky high. Sky high. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the mustard buzzards. That's cool. Oh, man. You can tell football season's coming, though, right?
Oh, yeah, it's getting there. You can feel it ramping up. You can feel it ramping up indeed. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by, Charles. And I do want to let everybody know, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Every dayers, we're going to have Patrick Broomfield coming on the show. We're going to have Jason Simmons coming on the show, and Tom Vanderford, Derek Vandegrift, those normal guys. This weekend, it should be a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you very much, Charles Stackhouse, for joining us. It's always a pleasure, man, and I hope we can do it again.
No doubt, man. Thanks for having me, Stephen.